This evening on Coach's Corner, we're going to have a conversation that might make you a little uncomfortable, but it will also set you free. Here's the truth most parents don't want to hear. The reason your child may end up in therapy as an adult isn't because of what happened to them out there in the world. It's because of what's happening right now, in your home, in your words, in your unhealed pattern. According to the American Psychological Association, over 41 million adults in the U.S. sought therapy in 2023, a 30% increase from a decade ago. And research from the National Institute of Mental Health reveals that 75% of adults' mental health issues have roots in childhood experiences before age 18. But here's what they don't tell you. Most of those childhood experiences aren't trauma in the traditional sense. They're the daily, consistent messages your children receive about who they are, what they deserve, and what's possible for their lives. James Baldwin said it perfectly. Children have never been good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate. Your children aren't just watching what you say. They're absorbing what you believe. They're downloading your consciousness. They're inheriting your limitations or your liberation. This evening, we're unpacking the law of consistency, the spiritual and psychological principle that says whatever you consistently model, speak, and reinforce becomes the operating system of your child's reality. And here's the revelation. The 7 dream killers that stop adults from achieving their God-given potential at random. They're generational patterns passed down through parenting practice. This episode isn't about blaming you. It's about awakening you to the spiritual assignment of parenting and showing you how to break the cycle. Welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. As you know, I'm your host, Dwayne Dwyer, the Mindset Coach. And I'm excited about this particular conversation because I think it's a lot that we're going to uncover, a lot we're going to unpack. So listen, wherever you are, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on LinkedIn, make sure that you hit that like button, make sure that you share, and just get in the comment section to say hello because I want you to understand a couple of things. Number one, I value that you are here with us this evening. You could have been anyplace else, but you chose to be here, and I do not take that lightly. Number two, you are a functional part of every conversation. Every time we hit live, go live on this particular platform, you are a part of the show. So I want to welcome you and thank you. And also, do not forget to send your comments, to go along with the conversation. Ask questions, again, because your questions are valuable. You have thoughts, you have questions, you have inputs, and we want to make sure that they're received and responded to. I think that's important. And again, share this out, hit that like button as well. As we get started, there was a very prominent female artist years ago, back when I was younger. Those of you around my age group should know who I'm talking about. She was just phenomenal in her era. She had vocals that were out of this world. And people like the great Aretha Franklin, wanted to partner with her. CeCe Winans and all those other great people want to sing songs with her. And she's done a lot as far as the song industry is concerned. But here's the important part that I really want to touch on. And I know you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm not even going to call her name. I'm going to let you put her name in the comment section. But she had this particular song, and it started off that I believe the children are our future. Now, if you really let that sink in, that says a lot. And I think back then when she first said that, it really did not resonate with me at the level that it does right now. But I think there is not only a lot of truth in what she says, but it is the ultimate truth. Your child, believe it or not, is the future of your lineage, is the future of your brand, is the future of your name. And I think when we really stop and think about it, like the things that we pour into the matter, the things that we talk about matter, the things that we share with them matter. And so for me, I want to start off this conversation with a scripture that is near and dear to me. Because when you think into it, it really makes a lot of sense. And that scripture is Proverbs 22:6, which says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now, I think there's a lot to be said in that, because I want to ask you a profound question as it pertains to the scripture. And that question is, as a parent, what way or path are you starting your child on? Like, let that sink in. Like many of us who are beyond our parenting years, right? Um, I wonder what would have happened if we had that question to consider. What would have happened if somebody asked you in the beginning when you first started raising your child, like what way and what path are you training them up to go on? Because I think that question by itself carries a lot of significant weight. Um, and if we think about it and we really think into it, it really, especially in our younger years of parenting, it really would have given us some direction in parenting. Because we like to say there's no blueprint to parenting, but really there is. But in most cases, we don't know where to find it in that time. So that said, point number one is all about the consciousness of permission and progress. Now, I know you want to take your time and write notes, and I'm not against writing notes. Um, but keep in mind, the more you write while I talk, the more you're going to miss what is actually said. So if you want to write notes, catch the repeat, catch the replay. That way that you can capture all the notes that you want. Because I think uh, by us having this conversation is going to be very interesting. So that said, under the consciousness of permission and progression, I want to bring out a quote, famous quote by Joseph Campbell. And that quote is, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. And I think that fits in just about every category. And here, the first dream killer. Now, yes, I'm going to give you 7 dream killers. They're listed throughout this conversation, and they probably are not going to be in order. So just capture them as they come. So the first dream killer is dream killer number 1, which is all about waiting for permission. I say again, it's all about waiting for permission. Now, I believe you either teach your child to trust their inner guidance or seek external validation for every decision. And if you were like me initially, especially in my younger years, I sought external validation. Why? Because I wasn't really confident about this thing called life. I've always talked about being raised in the 70s and 80s. I being dark skinned in the southeastern portion of the United States, we weren't the ones, right? And I wasn't liberated until Wesley Snipes, but that's a whole other conversation, right? But it was a lot of external validation for whatever reason. And it could be because of your height, it could be because of your weight, it could be because of your skin complexion, it could be because of your intellect, it could be for a number of different things. You wear glasses, you got braces. It doesn't really matter. You seek external validation when you are not confident in who you are, in the direction in your life in which you're trying to go. And so in that case, because we are unaware, because we don't know of any particular direction, that's generally how it works. Well, statistical data in 2022, a study published by the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that a raised in authoritarianism, permission-based household were 60% more likely to experience decision paralysis and imposter syndrome in their careers. So I think that brings us to a place to ask certain questions, like what validations were you looking for? What type of feedback were you looking for? As a child, you as an adult right now, what type of feedback were you looking for as a child? And then my question for you is, how does that shape you into a parent today? because the lessons that you learned in the past should move you in the proper direction for the present time and the future. But more importantly, I go this route. What permissions are you waiting for in your own life? And how is that hesitation teaching your child to wait instead of walk in faith? Now, I think this is an important question to consider because where are you more confident and where are you more fearful? And I think by virtue of having that awareness, we can now also see where we're instilling confidence in our children, but by that same token, we may also be instilling fear as well. So, again, what permission are you still waiting for in your own life? And how is that hesitation teaching your child to wait instead of walk in faith? Like waiting for permission for that next major career move where you're feeling drawn and pulled to? Are you waiting for permission to start that business? Are you waiting for permission to step out of your comfort zone and do something that is liberating and more profound to you? So, something that you should consider. And again, keep in mind you're teaching it to your children as well. Dream killer number two is all about confusing motion with progress. This was a huge one because I always say it's a big difference between busyness with a Y and business with an I. And a lot of times we confuse busyness with business. So again, confusing motion with progress. Now, also believe when we look at praising busyness over intentionality, create adults who are always moving but never arriving. Let that sink in for a second. Praising busyness over intentionality. What does that really mean? Just because you see people doing things does not necessarily mean the things that they're doing have a prescribed destination. But for those people who are doing things with intentionality, they have a destination in mind. Therefore, the things that they're doing is geared toward that. So we have to be consciously aware of those things. Research from Stanford Institution shows that children praise for effort without outcome evaluation are 40% less likely to set and achieve measurable goals as adults. Let that set in. Children praise for effort without outcome evaluation are 40% less likely to set and achieve measurable adults. So you mean to tell me, according to the statistical data, that everybody getting a trophy was never a good plan? Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. So then my question to you is if your child's calendar reflects their true calling versus just being busy, what would need to change today? Now, I get it. Somebody right now is asking about how I'm going to know what my child is called to do. Well, what is the thing that they're leaning more towards? What is the thing that excites them? What is the thing that is drawing them near? What is the thing that captures their attention the most? I think that kind of puts things into perspective as opposed to me saying, oh, well, you're going to play basketball. Then after playing basketball, you're going to play football. Then after football, we're going to go and we're going to play soccer, right? So throughout the entire calendar year, my poor little child is doing this and doing that and doing this. And don't get me wrong, discovery is an amazing thing. And sometimes we don't discover that we like a thing until we try the thing. But even in the midst of these three things, if they decide, say, hey, I want to play football, I really like football, blah, 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 blah. The only way they're going to get really good at this football thing is by me removing the basketball and the other thing off of their plate. So now they get to focus their attention there. So now they can get a honest assessment on their behavior as it pertains to doing that thing. And so I think in all actuality, the perfect shift is that we teach our children to discern God's voice within them, not to wait for the world's permission. Now, I'm sure you're asking, well, how can I teach my child to discern God's voice if I myself have not yet learned to discern God's voice? It's a very good question. And I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that as time goes on. And again, I invite you to actually participate more with the community because we talk about, things of this nature. And also, I also want to say this piece as well, as I finish this banner. Teaching children to measure progress by transformation, not just activity, is an important thing, which means you have to sit down and talk with their child, with your child. Find out in their minds how were they doing at this particular thing. It's not just showing up. It's like how you're showing up. What type of effort that you're putting out, and do you receive the appropriate level of feedback? Sure, coaches give on-site evaluation, and again, I'm just talking about athletics right now. But what if your child isn't into athletics? What if your child want to be in the chess club? What if your child, want to be a part of the debate? Whatever that looks like, it doesn't really matter. Whatever they decide that they want to do, empower them to do that, and then be an active part of their growth and development within it. And then get to the point of teaching them to measure progress, not just participation, right? I think being involved is good, but being involved with a particular outcome, I think, is better. And I think that's one of the reasons why communities kind of fail, because some people just get to the point to where, like, I'm in the community, I'm here. Yeah, but what are you doing? Are you looking for the community to serve you? Then you're just, you know, trying to, you're just here by association. That's it. But if you're a part of a community, then there has to be some relevant evidence that you are committed to the community as opposed to the community being committed to you. Don't get me wrong, there has to be some evidence of that as well, where the community is committed to you. And I think that comes by default if you have a good, properly formatted community. But the other side to it is that if I'm just going to the community to eat and I'm not putting forth anything, then that's evidence that maybe in the past I was never taught to measure progress by transformation. Okay. And I'm not talking about transformation only received. I'm talking about transformation to where I'm an active part of doing a thing in the community. And that thing is part of the transformation that I'm experiencing. Okay. So I think we're off to a great start. That completes talking point number one. Again, I want everybody to remember, again, talking point number one is all about consciousness of permission and progress. And that revealed dream killer number one, which is waiting for permission, and dream killer number two, which is confusing motion with progress. Now, that moves us to talking point number two, which is the consciousness of discernment and identity, which to me, I think is probably the biggest and most important one. My good friend here, not really my good friend, never really met the guy, but again, Dwayne Dwyer, very close in word alone. Um, he made a statement, he made a comment. He has a famous quote that says, "What other people think of me is none of my business." I believe that is a very important thing. If I get more focus on what others think and I lean into what they think, then I'm constantly in reaction mode because what they think will drive my activity. But if I focus more so on what I think and allow that to be the business that drives me to be busy, right? Now I am moving more so in confidence. So I just want to kind of lay that out there. Okay. That reveals dream killer number three. Listening to the wrong voices. My. Listening to the wrong voices. Something that we experience oh so often in this day and age, right? Everybody who's behind a microphone is not for you. They're probably for themselves. You're just along for the ride. Okay. When children believe that everyone's opinion matters equally, they're robbed of discernment. Let me say it again. When children believe that everyone's opinion matters equally, they're robbed of discernment. Now, I think that's important because I think these children also grow up to be adults. And adults, they tend to get to that point to where everyone's opinions matter. Um, sure, within reason, within a particular area of your life, certain people's opinion should matter. I'm not taking away from that. But when I take all of these people whose opinion, quote unquote, matter in my life and I line them up, there still has to be a rank structure. So, that being said, my father's opinion should matter to me more than, I don't know, some random person off the street that owns a business or whatever. Now, if I'm looking for business advice, that person's opinion really matters because at the end of the day, they're the one that's running the business and I can learn from the things that they're sharing with me. So, that said, according to a 2024 study, I want everybody to kind of catch this. According to a 2024 study in the University of Michigan, adults who grew up in homes where external validation was prioritized over internal worth were 3 times more likely to experience chronic anxiety and self-sabotage behaviors. Let that set in for a second, because I do believe that these studies may also include some of us. We're not exempt from this information. So I'm gonna let that study just keep flowing as I dive into the first question I want us to entertain. And I think the point of these questions, for the most part, are self-reflective. So you can put an answer or put a response or a thought based upon these questions, right? Do not be held handicapped to having the right answer. I think that's something that we do a very bad job at doing. We get to the point of looking for the right answer, not necessarily realizing that the right answer comes in time and in season. So, whose voice are you allowing to shape your decisions? And are those the same voices you're teaching your child to listen to? I'll say that again. Whose voices are you allowing to shape your decisions? And are those the same voices you're teaching your child to listen to? Um, Very, very interesting thought to go along with that. I think in the scope of doing things the right way, parents' voice should be the most important voice that children listen to. Grandparents' voice, although some grandparents believe that their voice should matter in their grandchildren's life more than the parents' voice, that's not a true statement. Grandparents' voice should be to either coincide with the parents' voice or to kind of add to what the parents are actually saying. Okay. Now, who is more profound in the parent's life in the direction of the child? I'll say it again. Who is more profound in a parent's life in the direction of the child? That becomes an important piece for the child to understand that their voices matter, but their voices should not matter over the parent's voice. Okay. So that takes us to dream killer number 6, not believing you deserve it. Now, I do understand that this has been a very hot topic and a very hot talking point over the years, talking about what we deserve and not necessarily knowing what we should deserve versus what we shouldn't deserve. Then we kind of conflate that with just moving into the realm of entitlement and say, well, I deserve everything. But then there's nothing done to validate or to as evidence of the thing that I deserve. So sometimes we can get into the space of having an expectation of a thing and we say that we deserve it, but then there's no evidence that says that we deserve it. So now, where do those people come from? Well, when you withhold affirmation or give conditional love, you program children to believe success is for everyone else, but not for them. Now, what does that mean when we withhold affirmation? Well, if your child does a good job, tell them they did a good job. If they cut the grass, appreciate them for cutting the grass. They put the trash out. I get it, but these are the things that they should be doing because they live here. Yes, you're right. But there's nothing wrong with, telling them that they did a good job or thanking them for actually doing it. The conditional love is an interesting one because I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on this, but by that same token, I could. Conditional love, for the most part, is based upon what is done, based upon what a person achieves or what they provide or whatever that looks like. So therefore, when you have conditions for the love that you express, what ends up happening is that you're teaching a person that their worth is found in their deeds. However, and I've been talking about this for a minute, and I'll do more detailed conversation about it. It's the same thing I was saying about forgiveness. The reason why we struggle with forgiveness is because we do not necessarily understand appreciation. I also believe the same thing applies to love. Because we do not understand appreciation, therefore we love conditionally. What does that really mean? If I appreciate the person over the deed, I love the person regardless of the deed. I say it again. If I appreciate the person over the deed, then I will love the person regardless of the deed. So our children, for the most part, we love them unconditionally. We will always love. We might be mad at them, but we still love them. So if that's the case, then there should never be any evidence of conditional love when it comes down to them. So what does that really mean? That might mean we need to reshape their understanding, or you need to reshape your understanding that chastisement, correction, and punishment is also a part of love. Now, when I say punishment, I'm not talking about anything extreme. I'm talking about, you know, saying that they can't play their video game for a week or something of that nature. That's not, inhumane. You can actually do that as a parent, as a corrective tool, right? So that's key. Make sure that they understand what the correction is all about. Okay. Withholding affirmation and giving conditional love is not the way to go. In fact, not only is it not the way to go, when we go a step further, the National Institute of Child Health reports that children who receive identity based affirmation, in other words, who they are, versus performance based praise, what they do, show 50% higher resilience and self efficacy in adulthood. Isn't that interesting? You mean to tell me if affirmation and praise come from the source of the identity of the giver based upon the identity of the receiver, it actually makes them better suited for life? Yes, that's exactly what that means. So now that should put us in a position to consider the things that we're doing to our child and for our children. Now, I know there's some people out there with this probably saying, "Well, I don't have any kids right now." Great, you got some nieces, you got some nephews, and things of that nature, and you could be a voice in support of your parent or of their parent, and probably share some of these tips with them as well to kind of help them with their parenting practices. Not saying that they're a bad parent, but again, I think every parent deserves a little help when it comes down to raising their children. So that said, when was the last time you affirmed your child's identity apart from their achievements? And what would change if you did that daily? Imagine what that would be if you could turn back the hands of time and your mother and your father told you every day that, you know what, you are a child of the Most High God. You are destined for greatness. You can do anything that you want to do in your life. You know what? There's no task, there's no position, there's no job, there's no achievement that you can't do once you set your mind to it. Imagine what that would look like if that was the seeds that were planted in you at an early age and watered for the next 16, 17 years. Could you imagine where you would be at? Could you imagine what your mindset would be at the age of 25, 26 years old? Just let that sit in. So, and that's important. I think that's important for us to consider as we're raising our children. So that takes me to talking point number 3, the consciousness of measurement and satisfaction. Now, consciousness of measurement and satisfaction, what does that really mean? Well, Alan Watts kind of sets us on the right path. He says the only way to make sense of a change is to plunge in it, move with it, and join the dance. What is the dance that Alan is talking about? The ebbs and flow of struggling and fighting and developing and failing and coming out of the water to get a gasp of breath until you get to the point to where you are swimming with the current, with the with the motion in the ocean. That's the best way to say it. Which takes me to dream killer number 4. Focused on the gap, not the gain. Okay. I'll say again, focus on the gap and not the game. Well, I think when we really stop and think about the whole focus on the gap and not the game piece, I think we can consider some things that we've been through in our life. Like, how many of us done something new, and then we were so focused on the fact that these people are more qualified than me. I've never done this before, or this is how I feel while doing it. I don't think I'm equipped. I don't necessarily believe that. You see what I'm saying? All of these things tend to play in your mind. And I believe wholeheartedly when you constantly point out what your child hasn't achieved, you train them to never celebrate progress. So when I've done it so many times in my life, it becomes a natural thing to do it as a parent. And so I focus on, well, I haven't done this and I struggle in the midst of doing this and I wanted to do this, but I didn't do that. Or while I'm doing the thing, I focus on, I major in the minors. I focus on how, the anxiety that I might be feeling because I'm just starting this or whatever the case may be. And so now by default, you start doing it to your child and you make them anxious. You make them a little frustrated. You make them a little concerned and worried about more so the outcome, but not necessarily celebrating the small wins that they achieve, throughout. Showing up, going back to what we talked about previously, showing up matters. That's good. What we do when we show up matters as well. And so, sure, there's some things that we need to correct. I'm not leaving that out, right? I don't think that is what it, I don't think that's what we mean when we say the gap. Pointing out the things that we need to correct is good. Also, identifying the things that we've done well is good as well. And I think sometimes we get so hyper focused on the things that we need to improve on that we miss the things that we do well at doing. Okay. And unfortunately, this creates adults who quit right before the breakthrough because they're so focused on the gap that they can't see the gain. Like, think about this. Have you ever been faced with an opportunity and it's an opportunity, right? You know full well in your mind that this is the right thing for me to do at this stage in my life. But yet, here's what you do. You focus on the reason why you can't do the thing. Let me say it again. You focus on the reason why you can't do the thing, as opposed to focusing on this is the right thing to do. Therefore, now the reason why you can't do the thing ultimately becomes the reason you don't ever do it. Think about that. If that's my mindset, if I have any evidence in my life that I've ever done that, what do you think I teach every child that comes in contact with me? Whether I tell them that that's what I do or not, they're going to pick it up from me by default. Why? Because it's a part of who I am. Like I said before, your children are watching what you do. Children are watching what you do. That's why I don't believe everybody should be teachers. I say again, that's why I don't believe everybody should be teachers. A lot of times, a lot of us, when we're in a position of teaching, we're teaching through the lens of a facade. We may be doing good by teaching a book, but by that same token, we also have to model it. And when people start watching what you're doing, it's like, well, you're telling me to do this, but you're not doing this yourself. Like you get nervous, you get frustrated, you get angry, like you start worrying about the gap as opposed to focus on the gain, right? So again, we have to focus on teaching them by first teaching ourselves. I'll say it again. We have to focus on teaching them by first teaching ourselves. Once we learn to focus on the gain, right, then we can teach them to focus on the gain. Don't be so laser focused on what you cannot do or what you haven't done or whatever the case may be. Focus on what's in front of you right now. What is that hill that you need to climb right now? What is that hurdle that is standing in front of you in the pasture on the other side? Right? Pasture, not pastor. Y'all stop that. What is that thing, that next hurdle that you have? You can't go around it because the hurdle is long. So it doesn't matter how hard, how far you lift to the left or the right. You still have to go over the hurdle. What is that thing? So that being said, research from the University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Center found that individuals trained to focus on progress or gain rather than deficits, the gap, were 2.5 times more likely to persist through challenges and achieve long-term goals. So if we start employing these things, we automatically improve our chances of success. It's just that simple. So my question for you is, how often do you celebrate your child's incremental growth versus only acknowledging major milestones? And what message does that send about their worth? Here's a better question. How often do you do it for yourself? How often do you celebrate your incremental growth versus acknowledging major milestones? And what message does that send about your worth? It doesn't change regardless of who we're talking about, regardless of who we're talking to. It doesn't change. It's one and the same. And here's the thing about it. I will struggle in identifying and acknowledging their incremental growth if I don't do it within myself. I'll say it again. I will struggle by acknowledging their incremental growth if I don't do it within myself first. If all I do is focus on major milestones and then I run out of gas before I achieve the milestone and quit, I am teaching them to do the exact same thing. So I just kind of want to share that with you because I also believe that in order for you to change that, you have to celebrate how far they've come by first celebrating how far you've come, not just how far they have to go. You never lose sight of that, but you never wait until they get all the way to that destination. So you teach them that transformation is measured in progress, not perfection, but you have to first learn that yourself. Transformation is measured in progress, not perfection. Okay. That takes us to um, talking point number 4. I think I said talking point number 4 was dream killer number 4. That takes us to talking point number 4. Talking point number 4 is the consciousness of interdependence and community. By far, one of my favorites. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I love this because if I can add like a sub verse to this, it's not just go, right? But it's participate as well. So if you want to go fast, well, you're the only person that's participating, right? If you want to go far, it's multiple people who are participating for the same purpose. And it doesn't change. It doesn't matter what your community looks like. So that's it. Dream killer number 5, trying to do it alone. We think we're on our own island. I am the captain of me, right? If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. No, 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 no. Some of the things you were not destined to do. Some of the things you aren't called to do. That's why you need people like mentors, coaches, and community. When you teach independence as isolation, you create adults who believe asking for help is weakness. Now, I won't put nobody out there, so I'm gonna put myself out there first. I really did believe this at one point in time when I was younger because these were the things that I was telling. These were the things that I was told. You should not depend on anybody to do anything for you. You have to do it yourself, and if you can't do it, you don't need it. All of those things were things I remember hearing when I was young, but that teaches isolation. And that's not necessarily a good thing, right? Independence as isolation is a very dangerous thing. It's an island that you be on that you're going to find yourself on. You're going to encounter some things in your life to where you're going to be challenged on an individual level. And then you're going to want or need somebody to talk to, and you're not going to necessarily have a person there that can actually listen to the things that you're. Let's not even look at it like that. Let's look at it from a larger scale, a more positive scale. Let's look at it from a standpoint that you really want to do a thing. You really feel as though you're called to do something big. And I've always said that if we're talking about the calling is too big for one person to do. So if that part is true, then who do you have in your corner that you can actually call on to kind of help you do that? Because every dream achiever in history had mentors, coaches, and community. And it's not major dreams we're talking. I'm not talking about creating Apple computer, or I'm not talking about creating the self-driving vehicle. I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm talking about things that you are called to do, whether it's creating a large community out there that serves different people, or whether it's just creating like an outreach group that goes around and talks to people, whatever that looks like. I think it's important for us to understand that we cannot and should not do it alone. Why? Because isolation is the enemy of elevation. I say it again. Isolation is the enemy of elevation. And to go along with that, a 2023 study from MIT's Sloan School of Management found that individuals who actively sought mentorship and community support were 5 times more likely to achieve career advancement and personal growth than personal goals than those who operated in isolation. Like, let that set in. What if even from where you are right there, I don't care if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, or 60s, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But from this point going forward, what if you knew that you were 5 times more likely to achieve the degree of success that you want to achieve? Wouldn't that, isn't that just enough to make you do something different than what you decided to do prior to. Isolation is the enemy of elevation. Okay. And in conjunction with that, the American Psychological Association reports that social isolation increases the risk of premature death by 29%, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Sorry, nope, I was joking. That was a joke. But yeah, let that sit in for a second. We don't necessarily realize in most cases because of all of the things that's going on today in this world. Like we are social creatures. We were created to be social creatures. Now we just have to be more strategic about those people that we socialize with. I think that's important, right? But some of us compromise our dreams simply because we do not have social influence or we don't have social interaction that moves us in the direction that moves the needle more positively in our favor. So, what dream are you still trying to achieve alone? And what would become possible if you invited the right people into your process? Got a better one for you. What if you teach children how to do this early in life, and then they grow up to be adults who do not practice isolation, but they practice collaboration? In fact, collaboration is part of their identity. I say it that way. And every feedback you get from school and things of that nature, teachers are praising them for their identity, for their ability to kind of pull people in to work on projects. Wouldn't that be an awesome thing to hear about your child, about your grandchild, whatever the case may be? But then it goes a step deeper. How are you modeling interdependence for your child, for your grandchild, for your nieces, for your nephew? And are you teaching them that community is strength, not a crutch? In fact, what does that really mean? Are you teaching them to participate in community, not to extract from community? See, I think that's the major cancer that we have going on that we don't spend enough time talking about. See, we talk about the other things that are more obvious and glaring. But what will happen if everybody in a community, let's take our community for a second. What will happen if everybody in our community took an active role, not just show up? Don't get me wrong, I appreciate everybody who show up. That's to me, I think that's noble. I appreciate that. And I'm really and truly touched. But what will happen if everybody who showed up actually had an active role in doing something? Whatever that something is, right? What if you did something? Wouldn't that feed the community? And then in turn, wouldn't that make the community more advanced and in a space to help not just everybody in the community, but attract more people to the community because they see the community is its own self-licking ice cream cone. It feeds itself. It keeps evolving. It keeps growing. That is really what an environment, an ecosystem in an environment is all about. One thing feeds another, which feeds another, and it continues to grow and expand in that nature, which is in essence what a community is supposed to be. So now what we have to do is learn how to model asking for help. Show your children that strength isn't doing it alone. It's knowing when to invite others into your journey. Model. I say it again, model it. In other words, have you adopted this mindset that strength isn't doing it alone? It's knowing when to invite others into your journey. How many people have you invited into your journey? Going back to what we talked about previously, invited them into your journey from a coaching standpoint, from a mentor standpoint, from a community standpoint. Do I have in my mind that everything I need should be given to me, or regardless of what it is or what it costs me, what sacrifice I have to make for it, I am willing to do so because the thing along my journey is more important than the thing that I'm holding on to right now. In fact, I'll go a step further. Part of the journey is learning how to let go of what you're holding on to in order for you to get what's at the next stage. That's kind of like what the whole concern was about Moses and Isaac. Moses had to get to the point to where he was willing to give up the thing that he loved the most to prove that he loved God more than anything. And then by virtue of that, not only did he not have to give up his, his son, but he got more in return. We don't necessarily realize that the law of sacrifice is one of the biggest things that is preventing us from seeing what's in the promised land. So just let that sink in. Okay. That takes us to talking point number 5, the consciousness of sacrifice and stewardship. Now, I think it's important for us to understand this by Henry David Thoreau. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You got to let that set in. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. Trust and believe. Everything has a price. We may not see it that way. We may try to find ways to circumvent certain things, move around it, sidestep it, dodge it, whatever the case may be. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. You have exchanged your life, a portion of your life, for some things. I give you a perfect example. The price that I paid for my retirement from the Army cost me 24 years of my life. It's not just 24 years of my life, cut blank, whatever. It is also included in that some of the mental, physical, psychological, emotional things that I went through over those 24 years. You have to ask yourself, is the thing that I really want, what is it going to cost me? Because the thing that you think is going to cost you, that's not the price for it. That's just a temporary exchange for it. In most cases, the thing that you're going to pay for financially, that's a temporary exchange. We don't look at it that way. We look at it what we're losing. When we look at what I'm losing when I exchange these dollars for this thing that I need to receive, this training that I need to receive, this mentoring session that I need. When I look at that, then my value is in the wrong place. See, that 4-letter word life is the biggest thing, the second biggest thing that the Most High God has given you. Your life is the second biggest thing that He gave you. So how much of that are you willing to exchange for life and life more abundantly? Because here's the deal. You can exchange a portion of your life to live a better life, and you don't even realize the portion that you exchange after you get to the better. But you're focused on the loss and not the gain. You're focused on the gap and not the gain. We got to stop doing that. So now what does that mean? We are not willing to pay the price for the thing that we say we want. We want it for free. We want somebody to give it to us. We want somebody to gift it to us. We want somebody to feel so sorry for us that they just say, hey, just take that. And we raise children who have that same mindset. Can I have, can I have, can I have, can I have, can I have? Well, I'm a little different. I love kids. I really do. And when kids come to me and say, can I have, can I have, can I have, can I have, can I have? Depending upon how old they are, I always work out a deal with them. Exchange. Now the exchange might be a hug, but at least it gets them in the mind for an exchange. So now, if you want that, come on, give your uncle a hug. All right, go and get it now, right? If they're older, I need some work. I got some work I need you to do, right? And again, it's just a lesson. Don't just look for the thing for free, because when you have that mindset, you're going to grow up in life and you're going to either expect it for free or at a discount. So when you shield your children from discomfort, failure, or sacrifice, you rob them of resilience. Dreams require a price. And if you don't teach them that, they'll quit the moment it gets hard or it exceeds the price that they're willing to pay. I say it again. Dreams require a price. And if you don't teach them that, they'll quit the moment it gets hard or the price exceeds what they're willing to pay. So now the question that we have to entertain is, where is my hard limitation and where is my willing limitation? Because once I define that, I have now put a cap on my dream. And a lot of times, this line here, hard and willing, Our dream exists someplace up here. That's really how life works, I believe wholeheartedly. Now, I didn't write the book on life, but I've been around for a minute and I've seen some things and I've been in some rooms and we had some talks. And this is one of the biggest things we talk about. Imagine teaching this to your child at a young age. Lessons that adults are spending thousands for in one sitting. Adults who really are tired of having a cap on their life. Not a cap that anybody else put on it, but a cap that they themselves impose. Oh, wait, there's more. It's not just the cap that they impose, it's the cap that their parents have predestined for them before they even got started in their adult years. It's that serious. According to a 2024 longitudinal study from Stanford University, children who were allowed to experience age appropriate failure and consequences showed 68% higher grit and perseverance in adulthood. In other words, they were 68% more inclined to push through the perceived pain. Let that sit in. How much pain have you endured for the thing that you say that you want? And then say, you know what, this is just too hard. I can't do it. And then next thing you know, some friends come around and say, hey, you still doing that thing that you was doing? Yeah, it was too hard for me. I just decided not to do it anymore. Hmm. It didn't work for me. Yeah, I know, Tamika and Tyrone had some great success with it, but it just didn't work for me. And I wonder, did it not work for you or did you not work for it? That's always the question that I tend to ask because at the end of the day, if we don't think that deep into it, we will miss ultimately the big picture. Research at the University of California, Berkeley found that adults raised in helicopter parenting environments are 3 times more likely to struggle with anxiety. How low frustration tolerance and inability to cope with setbacks. Like it doesn't fail. You got to let them fail a little bit. You got to let them learn, and it's not just failing, but it's also teaching them the lesson that failure is trying to teach them at that level. And a lot of times we do not do it, we have not embraced it, we have not employed it, and then a lot of times end up struggling simply because at the end of the day, we don't have the grit to push through. So the question becomes, what sacrifice are you unwilling to make for your own calling? And how is that teaching your child that comfort is more important than purpose? Let that sit in for a second. Do you know how many times I talk to people and they want to do a thing and they just talk themselves out of it? Because this thing, whether giving up something, or devoting their time, energy, and efforts to something is a little bit more uncomfortable than they anticipated. It's supposed to be more uncomfortable than you anticipated. Because if you could anticipate the level of comfortability, then only thing you would do is go around and find the things that fit your level of comfort and then do that. And then hopefully something will work out. Why would we not take a chance on us? Like, let that sit in. Why would you not take a chance on you, the life that you want to live? Why would you not teach your child how to do this at an early age so that when they get older, you get to see the best version of them, one that surpassed where you ever achieved in your life? I think that's an important thing to consider. When was the last time you allowed your child to experience a consequence without rescuing them? And what did they learn from it? I wonder. This is a good question, y'all. What's this? Because I wonder whether or not the Most High employ these same tactics when it comes to us. I wonder if He allowed us to experience our consequences sometimes without rescuing us, so that we can learn the lesson that life is trying to teach us in that moment. I've been saying this for the longest. When you fail to learn the lesson, the life's lesson, When you fail to learn the spiritual lesson that life is trying to teach you, then it has no choice but to come back and try to teach it again because you failed to learn it. So I come and rescue you. You fail to learn the lesson. So now it has to come back around. This time, it might be a little worse. It might be to the point to where I can't come rescue you. Sometimes we put ourselves in compromising situations, and those situations reveal lessons to us. Well, what if we teach our children how to deal with those consequences at an early age? I think that would be ideal. So I'm sorry. So let your child struggle. Let them fail. Let them learn that the dream is worth the price and that you believe in their ability to pay it. Because here's the reality of the truth. I believe that for each and every person that is listening to us right now. I believe that your life is worth the price that it's requiring for you to pay. I also believe, and I have the hope that each and every last one of you will do so. Right? Listen, for those of you who, I'm on this side, I'm sorry. For those of you who scanned that QR code already and gifted to, this community, to the show, I want to say thank you. I greatly appreciate you. You guys are awesome. And again, everything that we receive here, we give right back into the community in the form of developing shows, hosting different type of webinars, creating something for you guys to actually show off, to kind of expand and grow the community. Again, I keep stressing, your life is worth it. Stop shortchanging yourself by allowing the little bit of request. Like I really do believe that it's small compared to the outcome. The little request that life is making on you right now, I think is small compared to the overall outcome. So here's the deal. I am hopeful for every person under the sound of my voice. I believe that your life is so much, like you may have a great life. I'm not saying that you don't, but imagine what it could be like if you just take that next step, that next hurdle, right? And experience what the best of what God has to offer you. So that being said, listen, greatly appreciate you guys. It's been, as always, it's an honor to talk with you and sharing conversation with you. Again, go back and listen to the replay again, capture these points, capture these dream killers, because at the end of the day, I do not believe that, I don't believe they should go in vain. I think you will get a lot from them. And again, teach them to your kids, teach them to your grandkids, teach your grandkids through your kids, teach them to your kids, teach your grandkids through your kids. And man, just watch how they just capture these lessons and just grow. So that being said, you guys are awesome. Again, let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else. And we will talk with you soon next week on Coach's Corner.
Do your thing. Fresh out the house, got the beat on suicide as I ride up and down Martin Luther King Drive. Standing tall, looking down on the bloody boy, snitching all day. I look